But let's jump into our first story. So, a fine of 1 million dirhams was imposed for not paying salaries. Now, not paying salaries is not just an offense that will be taken lightly in Dubai. There are major consequences to this. The Dubai Public Prosecution shared a case on their Instagram that will serve as a reminder for businesses all over the city. Now, the Dubai Neutralization and Residency Prosecution referred the owner of a construction company to court for not paying the salaries of 215 workers. He reportedly refrained from paying the salaries for 2 months due to financial challenges within the company.
So the court ordered the company owner to pay a fine of 5,000 dirham for every worker, which amounted to a total of a whopping 1.075 million dirhams. That's hefty. The UAE does not take these matters lightly, and I think this brings a sense of reassurance for all the employees that aren't getting paid in time, because it is something that you see frequently enough for people to actually be afraid and go like, oh my god, I'm not going to get paid. And it's almost like the company's financial burden shouldn't reflect or drizzle down to people's lives, because you have a wife, you have kids, you have expenses, you have rent, you have diwa. There are all of these things that also get impacted in these employees' lives.
Yeah, and I feel like all companies should have a contingency plan. It's like as if, for emergency cases, like you should always have a plan B, C, D.
Yeah.
Because you just cannot predict these kind of situations. It just happens. Like, of course, like we understand that companies go into debt and they themselves wait for their clients to pay them, or like people who owe them money are not paying them. So they don't have any income to pay their employees. We get it, right? But then you have plans in place.
Yeah, like a financial plan, contingency plans.
Yeah.
Just like things put in place to avoid having to pay 1.075 million dirhams in debt.
Yeah,
or in
penalties, exactly. So you have to pay that regardless. Now, in these cases, I'm just like wondering, okay, like they pay the penalty, but then do these employees get their salaries at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, pay that penalty, but have the courts also applied, okay, plus you have to pay their salaries.
I guess it's bye-bye for that business. Like, you really got yourself in a rut there.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a full cycle. Like, obviously, companies don't just like withhold salaries. Like, ethical companies, but all over the world you understand that there are unethical companies that do that, right? But over here you would think it's not the case because the regulations are so strict.
Yeah.
And if your company is doing this, do bring it to the attention of the municipality and the authorities, because they will take action, like you can see in this specific story. But yeah, it honestly, it's the worst thing to not be paid your salary when you have all these responsibilities, like you said.
It really trickles down, and we're relatively young. Like, we're at the start of our careers. Our expenses aren't as drastic as people that are 10 years
seniors.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like they're further down.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like debt, and there are all mortgages, there are all these payments that have to be accounted for.
Yeah, and with construction companies, these workers are sending it back home.
Yeah.
It's not just for themselves. They are literally, a full family is dependent on them. Like their kids, children, parents. And like you said, like they may have houses that they're paying for back home. And then this really just stops everything, puts a damper, and like puts their whole lives on hold. So it's just heartbreaking. But great, we have these regulations in place.
UAE, you've done it again. So moving on to our second story.